Are any of the machines, I know it was on War Room the other day with Steve Bannon, have any of the machines been looked at? He had said that one was looked at in Georgia.
I'd have to check on that in terms of Georgia. I know during the audit they did check on those machines. They're really, if we can just go off the record for 1 sec here.
Yeah, of course. I don't want us to say it if it's not. That's why we're checking.
I think they have looked at the machines. When the Secretary of State did its audit, there was a fair bit of looking at the machines. The audit came in pretty darn close to what the machine count was with the receipts. So, I don't know the outcome of those, but our understanding, again, this is from the Secretary of State's office, was that there weren't any physical issues with machines on those inspections.
Again, that was on December 5th, 2020. Trump campaign officials saying there weren't any physical issues with Dominion voting machines.
Trump lost in 2020, and now he's losing again. And this time, it might really hurt. Trump, Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and Fox News all claimed fraud, but now we know there was never any fraud. The machines worked perfectly, and the receipts back it up. But that's just act one of this drama. Dominion voting machines were maligned by Republicans, and now they're getting their day in court to the tune of billions from Fox, Trump, Giuliani, and this guy.
We have cyber evidence of a 37,000 vote flip on the Kerry Lake race on Thursday after the election. We have all the Edison data that came in real time that came through on all the races, including Fincham, Blake Masters. They all won. This is like we were watching from every angle Emerald country. You go up to Michigan, they've completely wiped out the state of Michigan, stole the legislatures, everything. These other races with from Oz really won, but Arizona is the gateway to all of to expose everything. Everybody, we have to get Arizona. They need to do a new election.
All the conservative networks, Fox, Newsmax, and OAN, all lied. Then had to go on air and say, that bullshit we told you happened. It never happened.
Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th. To say this constitutes living in reality. And if I offered you a false reality, if I told you that there was an excellent, phenomenal chance that the Supreme Court was going to step in and deliver a victory to President Trump, I'd be lying to you.
I know that this surprises no one, but it has to have some effect on the dozens of Trump supporters who still show up at Trump rallies, still saying, "Stop the steal." Hard to say, but while Trump faces criminal indictments, it might be these civil lawsuits that ultimately take the orange sheen out of his sagging jowls. Trump is facing dozens of lawsuits, ranging from sexual assault to the Dominion voting machine debacle, and his hotel and golf properties are in trouble too, which brings the whole question of how much more money does he have? The Koch brothers have cut him off, and even though his supporters are willing to live off food stamps while they send him their last few dollars, will it be enough?
They'd say 2024, sir, 2024.
And Trump has to run in 2024 for a lot of reasons. Number one, to keep the grift going. If he becomes a citizen, all monies will disappear, and the foreign officials will no longer have a reason to stay at his overpriced hotels and resorts. And number two, Trump needs the protection of the office. These indictments and trials and civil lawsuits all cost millions, if not billions, and Trump's plan to extricate himself is to repeat the whole 2020 fiasco with claims of fraud, the deep state, and corrupt media to wring another buck from Kid Rock Nation. But facing billions of dollars in lawsuits, why would Fox, Newsmax, and OAN want anything to do with this con? That's a good question, and I'm not sure they know what to do. Internal documents, like the one you heard at the top of this report, reveal that these conservative media organizations knew what was going on and chose to perpetuate these lies as to not piss off Trump and his followers. And I guarantee you they're doing the math right now. Will the money they lose to a lawsuit be less than the money they gain continuing to lie? It's like the same shit American car manufacturers did when they discovered dangerous flaws in their vehicles and decided settling lawsuits from people who were injured or died as a result was cheaper than fixing the problem. So now what? As Trump faces even more indictments and his legal bills mount, Will the final nail in this fucking vampire's coffin be a dollar sign?
Donald Trump's legal problems are stacking up yet again. A New York jury found his company guilty of tax fraud. Special counsel Jack Smith subpoenaed local officials in swing states for their communications involving Trump. And the January 6th committee said it expects to make criminal referrals to the Justice Department. So let's break it down and bring in Barbara McQuaid, a veteran federal prosecutor and former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan. Barb, let's talk about what this means for the Trump organization, because it was a week ago we heard the news that Trump penned a huge real estate deal with a Saudi Arabian real estate developer for a $4 billion project in Oman. Does this conviction put all that at risk?
It is without irony that money would be Trump's undoing. Known since the 1980s as a deadbeat, Trump has always headed off lawsuits by threatening plaintiffs to sue them back with a team of attorneys. But as we've seen over the last few years, that legal team was whittled down to a few hacks who could barely hold their own on a TV interview, much less a Manhattan courtroom.
He seems to, and you seem to be, I think, maybe unintentionally misrepresenting the law when you talk about Nixon. The law was passed after Nixon. Nixon had a case because the law wasn't in place. The law was effective with the Reagan presidency in 1981. Does Donald Trump think he should get paid? Is that what's going on here? Because Nixon got paid $18 million. Is he just holding these documents for some sort of financial settlement?
No, that's a cheap shot. Look.
So what's next for Trump, Fox, Newsmax, and OAN? Well, that depends. If the Republican Party finally decides to put Trump out on the curb, will the conservative media follow? How much of Trump's crazy base makes up their market share? Can the CEO and shareholders somehow manage to balance insanity and civic responsibility? Or is that the wrong question? Will this always just be about money? Do the huge ratings that Hannity and Tucker draw mean more than the peril that their lies pose to our democracy? You think I'm being overly dramatic? Fox has the biggest numbers, and they have repeatedly and even recently supported the big lie.
Tens of millions of Americans suspect this election was stolen from them. That means we now live in a country where a large percentage of our population no longer believes that our democracy is real. That is sad. It is also dangerous. It could easily get worse. What we're doing in response is hardly the solution. It is making our country much more volatile. It is setting us up for something bad. In a democracy, you cannot ignore honest questions from citizens. You're not allowed. You can't dismiss them out of hand as crazy or immoral for asking. You can't just cut away from coverage you don't like.
My guess is that all of these networks will follow the scent and the trail of dollar bills and will continue to lie as long as the ad revenue is more than the fines and civil lawsuits. And that means supporting Trump and his grifty fundraising, fraud, and naked political ambitions. Why? Because what else can they do? From Judge Jeannie to Hannity and Tucker, they're vested in lying to the American people in a manner and methodology that, in order to be successful, must outlive tiny fingers. Believe me, right now, both political candidates and Fox and OAN and Newsmax are trying to capture that which is, was, and might forever be the Trump brand. Lie until you're caught, then lie about the truth. Claim your enemies are evil and they eat babies and they'll take your guns. Just lie. Because when Trump strokes out or goes to jail or Melania smothers him with a pillow, the networks and the hillbilly base will need to be fed, and they must be ready. Yesterday it was Hillary's emails. Today it's Hunter's dick pics. What will tomorrow bring? Whatever pays the bills.
Subscribe on YouTube at Really American.